Recently discharged from hospital after being treated for the coronavirus, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson returned to work on Tuesday and spoke with the US President Donald Trump over a phone call. Now, the two leaders discussed the importance of international action against the COVID-19 pandemic and also the need to reopen economies. Plans for a post-Brexit trade deal were also part of the conversation. Now, according to the White House statement, Trump and Johnson have reaffirmed their close cooperation through the G7 and G20 to reopen global economies and also to ensure that medical care and supplies reach all those in need. Johnson had been hospitalized after contracting COVID-19, the disease caused by the new coronavirus. He also told Trump that he is feeling better and is on the road to recovery. The two leaders also discussed trade during the conversation. A Downing Street spokeswoman has been reported as saying that the leaders committed to continue working together to strengthen bilateral relationship, which is likely to include signing a free trade agreement as soon as possible. Now, Britain left the European Union earlier this year, and a deal with the United States is a key priority for Johnson's administration. Boris Johnson placed the UK under extended lockdown, which has seen firms close and thousands being forced out of business altogether. Under a mountain of lost trade and millions of lost jobs, the UK is bracing for long recession due to the virus fear factor. We are being joined live by our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, for more on this. Good evening to you, Mandy. Boris Johnson back at work as of yesterday. He's had a conversation with President Trump on the importance of the international action against COVID-19 and the need to reopen economies. What is the latest that you have?
Certainly. What's also interesting, he was back at work, but also they have reopened those Brexit discussions with Brussels, even though Europe is in the grip of it. It just shows that the priority is twofold, not just fighting the coronavirus, which, of course, he was on the front lines in the ICU unit for, but also to get the economy back on track. A key partner in Britain's strategy is, of course, the United States. That's one of what he sees as their key ally. Also, it's continuing forward with those Brexit negotiations. So there is quite a lot on the plate of the Prime Minister. The big question really for many British people is there was a big issue around the US wants everything on the trade negotiation, including the NHS. Now, the British people, the public, do want to continue the NHS as this free health service at the point of contact. Now, that was an issue before COVID-19. It's going to be even greater issue as we head into those trade negotiations. The NHS, of course, is the frontline soldiers in this battle against coronavirus, and never have they been seen as more important now in Britain. So to have the NHS as part of those trade talks is going to be a trigger for the British public. So looking forward, that will be a really interesting dynamic if the NHS stays as part of that trade negotiations, because it's quite certain the British public do not want a system like the US. Now, as for the coronavirus and the opening of schools, there were talk over the weekend that it might be something the government might consider. They all but quashed that, saying they will not open schools anytime soon until they start seeing a lessening of cases or a really scientific proven case for the need to reopen schools. So that has disheartened many of the publics who are hoping that life could start returning back to normal. We are just not seeing that yet. The lockdown is due to remain in place until the first week of May, and only then they'll be reviewing it. So for now, most shops remain closed, schools remain closed, and Britain stays under lockdown.
Right, Mandy. Now, Trump has been criticised for focusing more on the economy than healthcare. What are the sentiments of UK citizens with regards to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, especially on this, and considering the criticism of the government over its care of its healthcare workers, as you said?
He certainly has been, and his administration in its totality have come under scrutiny for the way they handled those early signs of the ramifications of coronavirus, that they didn't act quick enough. It was said that he missed 5 COBRA meetings in early February. Now, those COBRA meetings are the meetings where it has the most important security services around the table talking. The Prime Minister missed 5 of them. They say that his critics say that he was more focused on Brexit than he was on the coronavirus, not really taking into consideration how deadly this disease is. They do believe in many ways he's changed his mind, especially he himself said it was touch and go at one point for his own life, and it was only down to the NHS for saving him. So his position on fighting the coronavirus has dramatically changed from that early position. He's made it quite clear he will be slow to undo the lockdown because he doesn't want a second resurgence. But there is also criticism of lack of personal protective equipment, that PPE, the frontline health services are just not getting it, and they're putting their own lives at risk. The government is trying its best to get it, but they still do not have the supply. And there's a question on why didn't they look for that supply chain earlier to get that essential PPE to the front line.
Mandy, thank you very much for that report. That's our bureau chief from London, Mandy Clark, bringing us the latest out of the UK.